All right. Hello. Welcome back. Chase Thomas Podcast, taping this on a Monday afternoon. First timer TV play-by-play voice himself, Drew Goodman, is here. Drew, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good, Chase. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. What did you make of the Colorado road trip in Atlanta over the weekend? What was your strongest takeaway from this group?
Atlanta's really good. They have a tremendous lineup. In an age where we covet home runs, they have a lineup that produces a great deal of home runs. They're number one in baseball, and they added 12 to their folio in the 4-game set against the Rockies. They are swinging it well, and they certainly took advantage of the Rockies pitching over the last 4 days.
If you had to get the best positive of the 4-day stretch here in Atlanta, what was it for the Rockies?
From the Rockies standpoint, well, Ryan McMahon continues to swing the bat really well. He had a couple of home runs yesterday. He, after a slow start, has really put together an all-star first half when you combine what he does defensively with how he's come on over the last half dozen weeks. Offensively, Elias Diaz threw out a home run. He continues to have an all-star caliber first half. And Ezekiel Tovar, young shortstop, continues to get better and better week by week. So, that's what I take away right now. I like watching Nolan Jones play every day and Brenton Doyle because hopefully they're part of the solution going forward for the Rockies. But listen, it's a bottom line business, and when you lose more than you're winning, that's what people focus on. And losing 4 games in the fashion they did in Atlanta is disheartening.
But you mentioned Ryan McMahon, who is interesting. He had a first-inning home run off Charlie Morton, who the most Charlie Morton thing, like he had a solid outing, but like he's either striking you out or he's giving up a home run or losing location, stuff like that. I mean, he's almost 40. You get what you can from Charlie Morton. He's okay at your 4 spot. But McMahon, you mentioned just kind of an all-star type year. What is flipped for him? Because he's always had the talent. We've known that forever, but it seems like he is playing with a level of confidence that we haven't seen to this point, where he really does carry and play in a way where it's like at the meat of that lineup, he is an all-star type player. So what has been the biggest flip for him in terms of just light bulb and just his style of play and what he's been able to evolve his game in recent months?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I think for several years he's worked on shortening his swing. I think he's been challenged at times by higher end velocity. There's never been a question about his ability. He's a tremendous athlete. He was an outstanding high school quarterback at Mater Dei in Orange County, a Division I prospect. His younger brother, in fact, is a Division I college quarterback, most recently at Rice. He's still at Rice. He's battling back from an injury. But he's a great athlete. He's exceptionally good defensively. And from an offensive standpoint, it's just been about consistency. You've seen flashes. He had a 3-homer game 2 years ago against Arizona. So it's in there. And can he make that jump from the 22 home run, 24 home run type of guy to being a 30-homer guy? Can you raise the average and the on-base percentage, 10% or so over, where he's been? And I think this is the longest sustained period that you've seen Ryan McMahon at his best. You've seen certainly flashes, there's no question, but he's been able to sustain it. And I think he's relaxed a little bit more, trusting who he is as an athlete, and also the combination of really the muscle memory of being shorter to the baseball, because he has a tremendous skill set. He really does.
Do you think part of that too is just he's 28 now, where he's been in the league long enough where he's kind of figured some stuff out? And also, I mean, I wonder the presence of Kris Bryant on this team, even if he hasn't been available of late. Like, has that been something that's really helped him too?
I couldn't tell you per se if Kris Bryant has something to do with it. I think that as you get older in the game and you've established yourself clearly as a major leaguer, and he signed a very nice contract a year ago. So, there's a comfort level. He knows he's a major league starter. He knows he's going to hit more often than not in the middle of the order. And he got married, not all that long ago. And I think the overall maturity, and he's always been a pretty mature kid, and he has a great work ethic, and he posts up every day, which is something that I have great respect for. I think people in baseball and sport in general have great respect for the guy that shows up every day. He's always accountable, good or bad. He's at his locker after games, that sort of thing. But I think the overall maturity of being, 28 and finding who you are, not only in baseball, but as a young man, I think all of those contribute on the positive side, and you're starting to see it bear fruit, from a statistical standpoint.
Is there anything that he reminds you of in terms of Nolan Arenado? Is there anything about their games that remind you of one another?
But certainly defensively. I mean, this might sound strange, Chase, but as great a player as Nolan is, and he's destined for the Hall of Fame, and he's the best defensive third baseman I've ever seen. Ryan McMahon, and I think Nolan would tell you this, Ryan McMahon's a better athlete than Nolan. Ryan is quicker. He probably has better feet than Nolan. And again, I'm saying that not to in any way impugn what Nolan has done, what he continues to do, and I'm sure what he will continue to do for years to come. It's more a testament to how athletic McMahon is, especially for a guy that's 6'2.5", almost 6'3", and 215, 220 pounds. He's really gifted athletically.
I like it. You mentioned Diaz at the catcher spot. It's interesting to see. I mean, he's obviously been excellent for Colorado all year long, but when you look at his All-Star, it's funny, like what I grew up around with just so many elite catchers all across the game, especially hitting catchers all across the game. And you look now, and Diaz is kind of an anomaly. You don't see many teams with a player like him. What separates him as a catcher, and why do you think he is deserving of being an All-Star this summer?
Well, I'd make a comparison to defensemen in hockey. It takes a while for defensemen to emerge on both ends of the ice, especially if they're two-way defensemen, and mature and really get the best out of their ability. And I think for catchers, a lot of times it doesn't fully occur. I mean, there's outliers. I mean, Rushman is certainly in Baltimore, flashing back to when JT Realmuto arrived with the Marlins. I mean, there's certainly outliers, but more often than not, it's late 20s into the 30s that a catcher fully is able to, be strong in terms of calling a game, framing pitches, blocking, and then contribute if they have that skill set offensively. Diaz has always had it, and I think he's finally found a comfort level where he's putting it all together. We've seen flashes of it 2 years ago. He hit, I think, 17 home runs from June 1st forward and hit close to 300 after a really slow start. And he was rewarded with a 3-year contract by the Rockies. And I think he has a lot of pride, and he has, a great care to his game and about the guys he plays with. And I think maybe he put too much pressure on himself last year after signing that contract. But it's all come together so far this year. And, on a personal level, I'm thrilled for him because he's a great guy. He's a guy that, brings great energy every day. And just like I said about McMahon, he wants to play every day. And lately he has, because even if he's not catching, if he gets a day off from catching, Buddy has used him as a DH most of the time.
The best current Colorado player that you would love to have in the broadcast booth with you for one game, if they're out for whatever, and you get to put him in the booth with you, who do you pick?
Well, I'm here in Cincinnati now, and the guy that jumps to mind immediately because he's got an enormous personality. He's a super bright guy. He's very interesting. I've had him on my own podcast very recently, and that's Brent Suter. So Brent Suter will be able to do a lot of different things when his playing career is done, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people knocking on his door to enter the broadcasting world.
I like it. Who would folks or Rockies fans be surprised to learn is kind of like behind the scenes just one of the best player coaches or best veteran guys on this Colorado team this year? Who do you think it is?
Well, I think Mike Moustakas, when you talk about veterans, I think Mike Moustakas, maybe beneath the radar, certainly on a national level, because the Rockies are not getting much national attention because they're not a great team. So people may not realize this. I mean, Mike Moustakas, who's hit well over 200 home runs in his career and has had a great run, is now kind of a senior statesman, elder statesman, a guy that plays occasionally as a starter, will pinch hit here and there, and he's done a nice job in both of those capacities. But he's also done a really good job in the clubhouse, mentoring young players, and the Rockies have several of those, and just kind of being a voice they can lean on. I've seen him out around the cage, whether it's talking hitting or talking mental approach with guys like Nolan Jones, guys like Brenton Doyle. I've seen that quite frequently, and I've heard from the coaching staff how much he's done. So that's a guy I would point to, Chase.
I like it. In terms of Kris Bryant, what is the latest? Do we see him this week, do you think?
I don't know if you see him this week. He is with the club. He rejoined the Rockies in Atlanta. He was not with us in Boston, and he's working his way back from a heel bruise. I know he's swinging the bat a little bit, and just trying to take steps from there. So the fact that he's doing baseball activities and the fact that he's with the club, that's a positive. So is it later in the week when the Rockies return home, or at some point on that lengthy homestand? Hopefully, yes.
If you get a fully healthy Kris Bryant, a fully healthy Charlie Blackmon from the beginning of the season to now, how different do you think the season looks to this point?
I think the Rockies are still short on talent, and it's not to disparage either one of those guys. I think Kris Bryant gives you still both those guys give you professional at bats. The Rockies are deficient first of all, offensively deficient in terms of hitting the ball over the wall. And though Charlie Blackmon and Kris Bryant have a history in the past when they wore younger man's shoes of hitting a fair amount of home runs, I don't know if it is fair to say, they're still of the ability to hit that many. Now, Kris Bryant's younger certainly than Charlie, and you'd like to, and he's being paid to be a middle of the order guy, and they need production out of Kris Bryant. I don't know if he's a 30 homer guy anymore. I really don't, and Charlie certainly is not. Those guys would help, but to sit here and play that card, I won't do that. I think that's disingenuous. I think that the Rockies have a ways to go. I think they know they have a ways to go offensively. They do have a system that has a lot of young and exciting talent. That's probably more of them a couple of years away, but guys that have a chance to impact the power column, the run production column, which is so desperately needed. And that's not even going into the pitching side. The pitching side has been decimated with injury and needs, like just about every team, you continually try to upgrade your rotation and everywhere else, because you can never have, as the adage goes, enough pitching.
No, you cannot. I mean, just look at the Braves. I mean, they're still in first, but dropping like arms. Haven't had Max Fried, Kyle Wright for the majority of the year. You look at it and you're just like, next man up. It's like, okay, Bryce Elder, I guess is going to be our most reliable arm to this point in the year. You can never have enough starting pitching. That is for sure. Well, you mentioned
I was going to say, Chase, I know you're from down in Atlanta, that area. Max Fried's going to be back in the not too distant future, which is going to be a big lift with his ability, number one, his work ethic, number two, to help out guys like Bryce Elder and a 39-year-old Charlie Morton. So they do have a little bit of help on the way.
I hope so, and we'll see. Soroka's pitching pretty well in AAA, and he's just a great story. If he can figure it out and he can get back, I mean, that would be awesome. And then we'll see what happens with Strider. Spencer Strider's 6-point-something ERA the last 6 starts. He struggled of late, so I hope that gets ironed out too on the Strider front. When it comes to the farm, and we'll end here. When you look at Jordan Beck, obviously a high-profile pick. I've watched a lot of Jordan Beck at bats in my life. Drew, when you look at what his power is, when he got drafted by the Rockies, my immediate thought was, oh, he's going to be up sooner rather than later. He's going to be great. Like there's just some strong Brad Hop vibes there. Like I could see him being really, really good right away in Colorado. Is it Jordan Beck is the most exciting guy in this farm system in the outfield power department front, or is it? And I don't know how to pronounce his first name. Is it Juan Keel? Is that it?
Young Keel Fernandez.
Yes, he just got promoted to Double A. He's playing really, really well. You mentioned that the couple guys might be a couple years away. Is he kind of the leader there in terms of Rockies farm potential stars down the road? And what do you think of those guys and when they could be up for Colorado?
Well, it's a great question, and I think through experience, you understand and you follow the game, Chase, obviously very closely, in that you can point to a guy based on draft position or international signing bonus and say this guy's going to be a star. And maybe early on they perform that way and then they hit a bump in the road, which isn't always the worst thing in the world, quite frankly, because baseball, everyone's going to hit a bump in the road, and you want to be able to deal with that. And oftentimes you want to see young players have to deal with that in the minor leagues because it's going to come at the big league level if they're fortunate enough to get there. Zach Bean was an extremely high pick, and he's hit a bump in the road. He had a great Arizona Fall League last year, but he's not performed well so far in the Eastern League in Double A. I think that he still looks like a tremendous prospect. He's got to clean up pitch selection at the plate. And going back to the guys you mentioned, Jordan Beck and Yanquiel Fernandez, along with Adele Amador and Sterling Thompson, have led that Spokane team to a really good first half. Fernandez was just moved to Hartford to Double A. I would imagine that's a possibility for Beck and for Amador as this season continues to unfold and the summer, moves into July. All those guys have been impactful so far, and hopefully will continue to be. And once you get to Double A, again, I think you know this, Chase, you can move pretty quickly. A lot of guys jump from Double A right to the big leagues and don't necessarily stop in Triple
Michael Harris
A.
just did that last year for the Braves.
Yeah, and listen, under Alex Anthopoulos, the Braves are not afraid to make a move.
Yeah.
And so it'd be very, very aggressive. So again, going back to Fernandez, the numbers are really exciting. I was with my son down at the Boca Chica, the Rockies Boca Chica complex, and this was a few years ago, and I saw him play as a 17-year-old along with Adele Amador, and they were really impressive. So I'm excited about those guys, and specifically to the Tennessee Vol. Jordan Beck, he's done a great job. He's
tied with home runs, I think, right? Wasn't he and Fernandez tied at one point? They're both raking.
I believe they are. I think some around 17 home runs. So I was asking asking Billy Schmidt, our general manager, in the last couple of days about him, and he may eventually move off center field to a corner outfield spot. But they like what they've seen so far. Certainly, he's got an impact bat, and you can't have enough talent. Just like we were talking earlier, you can't have enough pitching.
Absolutely. Well, Drew, you mentioned the podcast. What can the good folks check out from that upcoming soon? We can also watch you on the Rockies broadcast team each and every day, it feels like, because baseball is just always on. There's always if you're not looking, I guarantee there's an MLB game on at some point. But what do you want to plug here as we wrap up today?
Well, we start a series in Cincinnati. Yeah, my podcast comes out once a week. It comes out every Thursday morning. It's got a catchy name, so you probably have to jot this down. It's called the Drew Goodman Podcast.
I'm familiar with that kind of name.
And this past week, we're still kind of talking Nuggets stuff with the World Championship. So Jerry Schemmel, who I used to do the Nuggets on television back, for about a decade, a while ago, and Jerry Schemmel did their games on radio for a long time. He's been on the Rockies radio side also for a period of time. So we reminisced and did that. And I think Nolan Jones, I'm going to try to grab Nolan here coming up, but we're in year 4. So I have an interview every week and kind of talk about what's going on, not only with the Rockies, but around the sports world in general. So give it a listen.
There you go. Drew, great meeting you. Thank you so much for giving me the time this afternoon. Safe travels, sir. And we'll have to check back in again soon.
Anytime, Chase. Good luck to you, and thanks for having me.
Well done, nephew. Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.